Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review and reaction to Silo Season 1, Episode 4. This episode is titled Truth. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Okay.
Listen, we're not above doing cheap movie references
No,
here at
not
the
we,
What?
just Matt, just this guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
This guy. I was doing thumbs up. It's like, this guy. There we go. This guy is not above that. Listen, this show puts me in a good mood, which is weird, given that it is bleak and sad and terrible things are happening, and there are just like a wide array. It's like a cavalcade of theories that could just come out of what's going on here.
It's just such a good show, and it's been nice to see, a lot of you guys in the comments saying that you've started watching it, you've taken our recommendation, or you've heard it from someone else, you've started watching it, and you really like it too. This is going to be, I said this before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times, I'm going to die on this hill. This show is going to be a huge hit for Apple. It is just so good. The mystery's good. The way they've structured it is great. I believe that this is really happening. Like, it's just such a good show.
Listen, Apple, you guys are going to need another hit after Ted Lasso is over, which we're also covering. But it's like, there's no better spiritual successor to Ted Lasso than Silo,
right?
These two shows have everything in common. I mean,
they do. They're both hits.
See what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did there.
Okay, all right. So here's the biggest question that I know that a lot of people want to know in regard to Silo, and that is, where in the bleep are Allison and Holston, and what happened to them? Are we gonna see them again? Well, here's some good news. Jess and I, we have a Patreon. We have a link in the description below, and if you head over there and join, you can see a number of exclusive videos to the Patreon, including this big one about whether or not we're going to see Allison and Holston again down the road. We love Silo so much. We are so glad to be able to dive over there and get into more theory stuff and kind of piece together this mystery about these two characters that is just driving us insane.
Yeah, we're gonna have a bunch of Silo videos over at our Patreon. This one though, it's a pretty good discussion. So yeah, hit that link below, join our Patreon, get in on the discussion over there, and we'll continue to bring for you here our reviews and previews for the show all season long.
This episode, Silo's such a funny show, and I mean that ironically, where we don't have like hardly any Juliette for most of the first episode. She becomes more important in episode 2, even more important in episode 3. This is just like the full-on, just complete onslaught of all Juliette-related content. The past, the present. This show has about 4 different timelines that we have seen at this point.
I'm not mad at it at all. Juliette is a fantastic character. I love the actress. I mean, give me all the Juliette. She's, watching her in the past and what happened to her mom and her brother, and that she makes the decision at only 13 that she wants to go down to the bottom of the silo. She wants to be able to work with machines and help fix things and keep everything running. I mean, it was a really powerful story, especially when we saw that she forged her own note to go down there. And of course, her dad showed up being like, really? Come on, man. But it turns out, like, we've seen her dad in the last episode give this story of sort of what happened and that he supported her going down there. And he did. I wasn't sure when I heard the story. I'm like, I don't trust anybody yet. But as it turns out, her father comes down there and is just like, is this really what you want to do? Yeah, it is. All right, then.
I think what I loved about this story, and I think there's a few different things with it, is that number one, it obviously gives you a lot of sense as to who we're dealing with here in Juliette. Somebody who is so determined to get what she wants, to achieve her goals, that she's going to go the extra mile, type up fake letters, do whatever else needs to be done in order to ensure that she's in this position. However, I think what's also really interesting about this is we spend all this time to sort of see the engineer Juliette origin story, only for her to become a sheriff. So it's sort of indicative of like, this is the level of sacrifice that she is making in order to take on this new role, where it's like she's having to step away from this thing that she has wanted her whole life, that she in some ways literally risked her life to do, because this seems like a pretty dangerous operation down there. And it's got to be kind of hard for her psychologically.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of psychologically, I mean, one of the reasons she went down there originally, besides the fact that she did want to get into that, she did want to fix things, is that because the hours were so crazy, and by the time she was done, her head would hit the pillow and she'd be out, and she wouldn't have to think about what happened with her mom and her brother, and that she was using it as partially a distraction. But as she got down there, and she was spending more time down there, it continued to turn into more and more of something that she was really passionate about.
And, I think on paper we would say, oh, engineer, sheriff. These are very different things. And you know what? You're right. They are. But there was this moment where she sort of talks about, ideal and facts as an engineer. And I think her philosophy on life and sort of her black and white sort of feeling towards people, information, I think this is going to be very interesting as this season goes on, because she's going to be pretty no nonsense and she's going to make a lot of people very, very mad, which I think for us is a good thing. It's a really good thing, because she's probably going to get involved in maybe a few dust ups, if you will, over people who don't want to tell her the truth about maybe what's going on with these deaths in the silo.
Okay, speaking of the deaths in the
Yeah.
silo, we got to get into what happened to Mayor Ruth. I mean, she is gone. And,
Yeah.
most of us have all felt that this, is a murder. And there was a couple people that were online saying that maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was something that she did to herself. But I mean, listen, we had Bernard in there, we had Sims in there, we had the deputy in there, all talking about it, where they were like, okay, we know that it's a murder, but
Yeah.
we're going to kind of maybe push this other idea that, she did this to herself, where the deputy was like, nah, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
And because really, who's benefiting from this right now? We've got Bernard, who's now the mayor. Like, yeah, there's going to be an election, but he's the acting mayor right now. So Bernard has gone up right now in the ranks, and he's sitting in an all right position. And then you've got Judge Meadows, who we still haven't met yet. I'm very curious who she is, who she knows, she's related to. I can't wait to find out who she is. But she's still pushing Billings to be put in as sheriff. And even though Juliette is in there right now, and she's been sworn in, and she's kind of made a little headway with the deputy of a little bit of trust, we saw a very interesting scene where Sim showed up and he was just like, hey, Judge Meadows has pushed this through that Billings, is going to go through. We just need your signature on it, and Juliette is out. I was just like, very interesting, because I've been sort of dying on this hill that the deputy knew something was happening. And because he didn't find out that the mayor was looking to maybe retire until they had already walked the silo. And it seems like some of this was kind of being put into place already before they got to that point where she was like, hey, maybe I'll open up a stand beside, the guy who does the drawings. And we're like, oh, but I think he knew something was coming. And especially watching him in this episode and how he was acting, he felt like it was a mix of like grief, like pure grief, because he really cared for her, and guilt, because he had some sort of a hand in this that was like for the better of the silo, maybe.
I feel like Marnes was in a very difficult position. Like, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think it's going to be a real surprise if somebody in his position was not aware of like any whispers, any goings on around him. And
What are the chances Ruth's water bottle has a leak in it, and all of a sudden the deputy's like, oh, it was meant for me then? It's like, nah, we all watched everybody, the two of them drinking from each other's packs. Like, come on.
like I think it's clear he's not happy about what happened. Like, I don't think this is something that he wanted. I don't know if this is a situation where he was told one thing and it spiraled. I don't know if this is something where he just sort of had his metaphorical feet to the fire on it. Like, I mean, the man is just like wandering around. He's got the bottle. He's clearly unhappy, miserable, and just not in a good frame of mind about all of this. I think, the question as to like who is really the head of the snake, like who is the person that's ultimately in charge of all this? Like that's where things get a little bit complicated. Like Meadows, sort of as you mentioned, we haven't met this character yet.
Nope.
It seems like she could be a perfect sort of ringleader. There is still this part of me, and maybe this is just this part of me that wants to wear the tinfoil hat as long as I possibly can, where I don't think we actually know why we lost Mayor Johns in the way that we did yet. I wouldn't be surprised if this show throws out some red herrings on us, makes us kind of lean in one direction where maybe this is Sims, maybe this is Meadows, maybe this is everybody on one level just trying to take advantage of a situation that they were not fully aware they were going to have. But I think a big part of it is, you already mentioned the, oh, sign this paper part of it. If they start to like try to push a bunch of other laws and acts and all these other things through, then we kind of know that my theory is just, and they were probably responsible.
Yeah, I think a lot of the major players were there. So we saw Mayor Ruth on the ground, and who did we have there? Bernard, the new mayor, Sims representing the judge, and then the deputy. I think with having the three of them in that room together, I think they all had a hand in it. Now, is it as simple as the judge just wanted to have her own person as the sheriff put in, and then put in Bernard because she has some connection? Sure, it could be that. Or it could be even more complicated, that maybe it does have something to do with, we watched Allison go out, then we watched Holston go out, that maybe she knows more about what's going on with the silo, and that clearly there's things that need to be plugged up in it at this point. And having people in power that she can trust seems to be something that, she would want.
Here's what I want, because I'm greedy. Okay. I want a full Mayor Johns. Give me a full Mayor flashback episode. Give me everything. Like
she's been there for 40 years.
Like that's the part of this that really struck me. Is I assumed that she was in power for a good while, but I did not assume going into this episode it was 40 years. And now, all of a sudden, like the thing that I'm the most curious about is, if Bernard's going to be the acting mayor, or whoever the future mayor is going to be, how much are these people going to accept that? Because for a lot of these people, Mayor Johns is like the only thing they've ever known. This is not like you have a 4-year or 8-year administration thing going on here. It's like this person is your only memory. It's like, well, okay, it's not really like this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like people who don't remember life before The Simpsons came on the air.
Oh, right.
And it is just like, this is the only thing I know.
No, I'm 48 years old. So if I was in this silo, she would have been really the only thing that I've known since I was 8 years old. There is nothing else, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's a very long time.
It's a very long time. There's probably a lot of secrets that she has that for one reason or another, people probably want to go after her for all of them. It's just, I think, the reason why it's probably somebody higher up, and it may be some of the people you've mentioned, it may be somebody else who is like at a top position that we haven't met yet, is just simply because the way in which the silo works, where people can hear you at almost any it's not a place where it seems like stealth or discretion are altogether easy. I don't think that like townsperson Bob can just like wander down the street and be like, it's crime time, and he goes and commits a bunch of crimes and nobody knows.
Yeah, we also saw the deputy and, the new sheriff together, sort of comparing little bits of information. We saw the deputy go off on a whole bunch of people and have a very hard time with this. Again, I think it's a mix of grief and guilt. I think he knew something, but I don't think he knew she was necessarily going to be poisoned. I think he knew something, and he feels very responsible. But we saw him finally kind of getting a little bit of trust going back and forth with Juliette, where she was open with him about some stuff, the badge, the truth, all that sort of thing. She made a deal with him that she'll help him figure out what happened to Mayor Johns, and he can help her find out what happened to George. And I mean, we did see her at the end of this episode. I think we all knew where this was going.
Yeah.
We already saw Holston in the past with the little grate, putting something in there, kind of, tying it up. She found it, and it's the file on George, because one of the things that she asked for as soon as she was in office was like, I want this file. And, the woman was like, sorry, it's not available to you. It's not available at all. And that's why, because it's in Holston's apartment.
I love this reveal. This end of this episode this is just so fun to me, because I think I said
Do you think it was going to be the hard drive? I kind of thought it was going to be the hard drive.
I thought it was. The thing was, I actually didn't even know what it was going to be. I just thought, okay, it's going to be something tied to either George or the larger mystery or why Holston and Allison are out. I just felt like Holston's going to have a scavenger hunt. And that's what I wanted. That's where we got sort of the payoff for this. Like, I think the hard drive is maybe that is like a couple of moves down the road here. It's like you get a taste, then you get something else, then you get something. Like, I think the hard drive has to show up again at some point, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff about that hard drive that we were talking a little bit about over on our Patreon. So make sure you head over there to check that out, because there's already been some reveals on that hard drive that they're pretty significant for such a small little piece.
This progression, I think, is going to be a lot of what makes this show so fun. And the thing is just that I hope we continue to get these things, but also along the way, I do want to keep getting more of the world building aspect of this show, where like we got a little bit of this in the scene with Juliette and her new assistant, where we sort of get the sense of how badly people are sort of talked down to when they are on like the lower parts of the silo. And it's like, okay, this is sort of the social hierarchy that exists. But when you have a world that is this unique, you need to embrace it. Like, tell us what holidays are like. What does Thanksgiving happen on the silo? What are traditions? And I know this stuff sounds silly, but one of the things that Apple does a really good job at with a lot of their shows is escapism. You really kind of get into the world of what you're seeing. And I think the more that you can make this show feel unique from everything else out there, you can submit further that, this is that next giant hit that people are going to be talking about. It's why Lost was such a huge hit immediately. It's just like, here's a weird island with weird things. Here are them playing golf and like these things that made it feel very unique. And I want the show to keep embracing that.
What I want to know is what is on that video camera. We saw Martha near the end of the episode actually fire that up, and it's, a relic. So it's something that they don't really know what it is or what it does. I mean, even when they, Juliette had brought it to her and stuff, it was kind of like, I don't know what this is. We'll figure it out. I mean, I need to know what's on that camera. I mean, we already kind of know a tiny bit about that hard drive, but oh my goodness, what is on that camera?
I think this is going to be fascinating, because it's also just like, you need to find people with a proper understanding of these sort of things, and you need to also then trust them. And trust is not an easy thing to come by in this world. And
no.
It's just also really weird that, like, these people can be so technically like proficient in certain things, but then other things, relics, as you say, things that like we would assume every human being would know. It's like, oh, of course you people don't know it because you've been stuck in the silo and you've only learned silo things for the bulk of your life so far.
Yeah, like when she had the Pez dispenser and was like, I don't know what this is. Like, and why would she know what this is?
No, I think though that this episode, it really just excels in sort of getting you right into the seed of things for Juliette, where you're sort of like, okay, this is where she is now. This is what she wants, and this is how hard she's going to go in order to get answers. But
yeah,
I think just judging from the fight that we saw with Marnes at the end of this episode, that anybody who knows anything, whether it's a morsel, whether it's too much, anything in between, like, somebody is going to come for them, because no matter what this secret is, that nobody wants to leave anything to chance, and that's where the danger comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that Marn seems to have some enemies out there. I
Yeah.
mean, we saw him basically punch his way down the silo, looking for answers or looking for relief. You know, he was in his anger stage of grief, punching everybody down the silo. But I mean, yeah, we saw somebody come into his apartment at the end of the episode and get into a fight with him. So I mean, I'm sure we'll find out a lot more about that in the next episode.
Just pick it up immediately where this left off.
Yes.
Please. We need it. You guys want to make us happy? That's okay. That's terrifying. Nobody screen cap that. Nobody ever needs
Oh
to
my
see that again.
goodness,
Listen,
no.
we learn things in these silo videos. Okay, well, we will see exactly where the rest of this show goes from here. But it's so fun, so enjoyable. There's still a lot to go. There's 10 episodes. They're not cheaping out on us here.
No, they are not, and they're nice, big, full episodes. I mean, they pack a lot in. So far, there's been nothing that's really filler. They really are giving us everything.
I got like viscerally mad when I saw that Yellow Jackets only has 9 episodes this season. I was just like,
I
what is wrong with
know.
you people? Why
I
are you only
know.
giving us 9?
I
Okay,
know.
well, check out that Patreon video. Like we've said, that link is in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you here in the silo next time.